Hey, it's Alan Berg. Before we get into this episode, I'm starting something called Ask Me Anything. That's right. You submit your questions and they could become an entire episode or something that I answer at the end of an episode. To submit your questions, look for the red button at podcast.alanberg.com. That's right, podcast.alanberg.com. Click on the red button, submit your question, and maybe you'll hear it here on the podcast. Thanks. So, who was right and who was wrong? Listen to this episode, find out. Welcome to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Berg. I'm a speaker, sales trainer, consultant, author, and I help businesses like yours sell more, profit more, and have a little more fun doing it. Enjoy this episode. Hey, it's Alan Berg. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. Here's something that happened the other day on Facebook, and I wanted to share it with you because I thought it was a pretty straightforward thing from the way I saw it, but clearly it wasn't because other people saw it differently. Sounds like life, doesn't it? So what happened was somebody posted online that they saw actually on Threads, and that people were quick to attack the planner in the comments. I think the restaurant was in the wrong. They completely ignored the question, then tried to schedule a call. Okay, so here's what they're talking about. The graphic shows this. The wedding planner sends an email. Hey, restaurant, I'm looking for a rehearsal dinner options for 100 guests. Can you tell me if you do buyouts and what your capacity is? The restaurant replied, we'd like to call you and talk about it. The planner replied, here's what we're not going to do. Okay, so I saw this and immediately saw that the restaurant didn't answer the question. That's what I'm seeing. And I had a personal experience with this. So let me share this because this will help you see my perspective on it. And again, you're welcome to yours as well. So I was traveling internationally, and I use Square for credit cards. Many of you might use it as well. And their devices and their system doesn't work outside the US. So if I go to Canada, I can't use Square. If I go to Mexico, I can't use Square. In this case, I was heading to the UK and I was heading to Ireland, and I knew that I was going to be selling some books, or at least hope I was going to be selling some books. And I wanted to see if there was another option. I've been banking with Chase for many, many years. So I reached out and I emailed customer service at Chase and I said, I'm traveling to the UK and Ireland. Does your mobile credit card processing work there? Somebody replied to me and said, let's have a call. And I replied and said, if the answer is yes, I'd be happy to have a call. If the answer is no, there's really nothing to talk about. And then they wrote back and said, well, actually, it doesn't work internationally, so we're sorry. See, it would have been a waste of both of our time to have that phone call. And that's the same thing that I saw with the restaurant. If they don't handle 100 people or they don't do buyouts, then there's nothing to talk about. Now, could the planner have replied differently? They could have said, like I did to my bank, if the answer is yes, you do buyouts and you handle 100 people, let's have a call. But it's also possible that the planner just doesn't like to use the phone, as a lot of people don't these days. I mean, think about the websites that don't have phone numbers on them. Plus, I'm just from the way they replied, I'm going to guess, and maybe I'm profiling, but I'm going to guess that this is someone who's a Gen Y or a Gen Z, right? Just because I've seen language like that before, and it not the same language I would typically see from a Gen X, let's say, or a baby boomer. Now, I could be wrong on that as well. It could be a baby boomer that wrote that. I don't think so, but it could be. But what was really interesting is the people that came to the restaurant's defense and were saying, well, the restaurant answered the question. And I looked at it again. I said, well, how did they answer the question? Because they didn't say they can handle 100 people. They didn't say they do buyouts. They just said, let's have a phone call. And I was started to get attacked by people who are saying that, why am I saying that these are Gen Ys and Gen Zs and they don't want to talk on the phone? I said, because that's the data that's out there. Sure, nobody wants to be put into a box, but there is certain data that says that digital natives, and by definition, a digital native is someone who's grown up with certain technologies. I'm a digital immigrant, not because of my age specifically, but because when I started in the industry, in the wedding industry 30 years ago, I had a cell phone, but it was in my car. It didn't come out. It didn't go in my pocket. I didn't have mobile credit card processing like this. I would have to take your card and take the carbonless thing and, swipe it and get the credit card information. And I took contracts on paper, right? And then we adapt. right? Now I don't do any of those things because I've adapted just like we always adapt. But it was really interesting. People kept saying, well, the restaurant was right, the planner was wrong. And I said, well, the planner's the customer. And if the planner is the customer, just like with any of us, we get to dictate how we want to communicate. There are sometimes I live chat with people, and I'm perfectly fine with that if you can answer my question. Other times I'll send an email because it's late at night or you're closed. I'll be like, hey, tomorrow's fine. I'll get an answer. Other times I pick up the phone. I did that today, trying to pick up the phone because there was no way on their website to do what I wanted to do. Therefore, they're forcing me to either email or to call them, right? Where if I could have done it myself on the website, I wouldn't have needed to contact them at all. So they're forcing me into that. Now, do I mind calling them? No, but it's kind of a waste of my time if I could have taken care of this on their website. So once again, we as the consumer get to say, we prefer to communicate this way. I get text messages from people and I text them back. Why? Because you chose to text me. You could have emailed me. You could have called me. You could have filled out a contact form. All of those options are on my website. You could have Facebook message, Instagram message, LinkedIn message, right? All of these things, WhatsApp, all of them. But if you choose to text me, I'm going to text you back. Will I change that to a phone call, a Zoom, or something else? Maybe. Sometimes it's more necessary than others, but I don't do it right away because right away I'm adding friction to the process. So what I thought was really interesting here was people who were saying the restaurant answered the question. What's your opinion? What do you think? Right? Do you think they answered the question by saying, let's have a phone call? And somebody said, well, it was implied that they could do it if they said have a call. Well, that's exactly what happened with my bank, and it wasn't implied that they could do it, right? I was feeling it was, but when I said, can you do it? They said no. So I don't think we can assume that because there was nothing in there that said, I can do it, let's have a phone call. Now, it's entirely possible the planner might have still said, no, we can do that conversation here because they're having a conversation, right? Or they might have said, oh, okay, you can do the buyout, you can do 100 people, sure, I'll have a phone call with you. But it never got to that because they didn't answer the question. They immediately tried to change that. And I'm telling you, this is happening a lot more these days than it happened even a few years ago, that people are getting ghosted more and more. And when I look and see, because we do a lot of secret shopping, we've shopped over 648 companies. I think that was the last number as of yesterday, 648 companies since 2023. And people are still going immediately for the call, and wondering why they're getting ghosted. It's because that person reached out digitally. They want a response digitally, and you have to give them a reason to get on the phone, which is not talk to a salesperson. Reason to get on the phone is because there's information that you're going to give them that they want to hear, and you've kind of teased them about that. You've given them some little hints, kind of like when they give you a little food sample in the store and then you want more. It's the same thing. You want to give them a little bit and then ask for that change. Or, as I've said and I've written about, put it in the PS. Right? There's a PS that goes after your name, before your email signature. If having a call or a Zoom, or if your venue coming in for a tour is what you're ready for, and then give them a way to do that. Clicking to a calendar link, or telling them to reply to the message, or giving a phone number or something like that. But that would be a way to do it. But I thought that was really interesting. I wanted you to just bubble this up in your head. If you want to reply to me, please do so. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. But that was the entire conversation. Right? And I'll read it to you again so you'll have it fresh. The entire conversation was this: the wedding planner's email. Hey, restaurant, I'm looking for rehearsal dinner options for 100 guests. Can you tell me if you do buyouts and what your capacity is? The entire reply from the restaurant is, we'd like to call you and talk about it. Planner, here's what we're not going to do. So think about that. Let me know what your thoughts are. Again, I'm not looking for right and wrong, but just perspective-wise, it was really interesting to see people on both sides of this when we all look at these things from our own perspective. For me, it was pretty cut and dried. Didn't answer the question. If you didn't answer the question, why should I have a phone call with you yet? Thanks for listening. I guess I'll get off my soapbox now. Thanks. Hi, it's Alan Berg. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wedding Business Solutions podcast. If you have a suggestion for a future topic or a guest, please go to podcast.alanberg.com and you can make your suggestion there. You can also do it at Ask Me Anything, which is a button on that page, or just email me at alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com. And if you'd like to find out how I can help you with sales training, a website review, consulting, or speaking for your group or organization, possibly at no cost to the organization, contact me directly, Alan at weddingbusinesssolutions.com. Thanks again for tuning in.